So, you like speed? Well, unfortunately, you're not going to like this video. Today, me and Metal are going to be going over the worst speed vehicles in some of the current metas that you're going to be seeing in CrossWorlds. The four tiers we currently have are the worst speed vehicle in the level 4 meta, the worst speed vehicle with the bagging sets, the worst speed vehicle with the quick recovery sets, and the general worst speed vehicle.
That's right, Joker. And so far, I will explain the first two parts right here of this tier list right now of level 4. I believe everyone who's played online has seen the level 4 meta right now. It's Tech Drift, level 2 Quick Charge, level 3 Quick Charge, and Ultimate Charge. With this right here, you're able to take the sharpest of all turns, or the sharpest of all snakes, and basically just give yourself ultimate if the front run properly and not get hit at all. Bagging sets, we all seen this. We all played Mario Kart before in the past, right? We all stay in the pack just to get ourselves the strongest items and push up to the front. Joker, with this recent update, can you tell us more about the quick recovery set and the worst vehicle?
So currently with the new update with patch 1.2, quick recovery got a absolutely massive buff recently where basically when you get hit, you're going to be in such a low downtime period, it feels like you're literally not getting hit at all. We have when the crush effect, as recently when I was playing in the power vehicle set builds, which we'll go over power vehicles on another video, but in the power vehicle sets that I was running with quick recovery, it felt like I was getting crushed for maybe a third of a second. And then finally, the general worst speed vehicle will be basically going over from the other three tiers and potentially some other stats. We're going to try to pick out the general worst vehicle in the speed class from everything we're going to be going over today.
Good Joe. Let's see what we got here for our list for the first set of vehicles.
So we've compiled a nice little list of all the speed vehicles. With this, we have all the speed stats for each of the vehicles, and I want to at least preface this now. All the speed vehicles are very fun. Unfortunately, with the current metas in the game, they are not the best vehicle type. They are still some of the most seen vehicle type because they have some really cool cosmetics and some really good designs. And you might notice that we have a very special vehicle here, which is actually II's vehicle that's going to be coming out later this year, if I'm correct, or next year?
Next year on March.
All right, so this is going to be the Banana Cruiser. Now, the stats here are pulled from me doing some reverse engineering of the stats by using the Arsene Wing to cross-reference the Banana Cruiser stats. And I just want to say this and preface this real quick. All of the stats here, you can divide any of these stats by 3, and you'll get what each individual part is. So, for instance, with the Speedster Lightning, which is Sonic's vehicle, divide each of the numbers you see on the screen here by 3, and that's what each part is. So you're going to have 20 speed, 5 acceleration, 13 handling, 15 power, and 7 boost.
Quick math right there, Chief. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's impressive.
So, to get things started, let's talk about the level 4 meta. I do want to bring up one thing. There was a very great commenter. His name's Shy Guy, one of the best CrossWorlds players. Very awesome guy. He did give us some very great insight as of recently on the last video as to what stats we should be weighing in, especially on the level 4 meta, and how important each of the stats are. So to explain this, he stated that boost is the most important stat, especially in the level 4 meta, which I fully agree on. That is correct. We have the speed stat, which is actually going to be weighted as the second most important stat. Again, I fully agree with that. Boost and speed, very important. Handling, I underrepresented handling and acceleration as stats. I think Metal even tried to preface this in the video that handling and acceleration are more important than I thought they were. And so I like to say from right now, it's going to be basically boost, speed, handling, acceleration, and then finally power. Metal, do you want to explain why power is actually the worst stat because of the level 4 meta?
With power stat with level 4 meta right now, it doesn't even matter. If you get hit, that's you're before working with desync to help save you, and you had the level 4 invincibility. Power, all it does was just half your stun time when you get hit. It doesn't even protect you from ring loss as much.
Well, it's a little more than that as well. The big thing then why it's so bad on top of that, because you brought up some great points, power itself mainly dictates who loses rings in collisions, like you said, but because of level 4, you get invincibility, you actually cannot lose any rings on any collisions. So because of that, power actually doesn't matter as much, especially if you're versing people that are extremely good with the level 4.
I also like to bring up the topic of certain tracks like Colorful Mall and Apothos have the certain shortcuts where there's tables in the way, and if you run into them, it slows you down. But with level 4 invincibility, you can just ignore it altogether and keep your speed up. La Power does not help you with that, unfortunately.
It's a real shame because power is probably one of the most important stats outside of level 4 being taken into consideration. That's why we're actually going over more than just level 4 itself, because I feel like going over going over these 3 other potentially meta or potential play styles that you're going to see consistently right now is very important, and having power with the bagging set and the quick recovery set should help you save a lot of your rings, especially with the quick recovery, since it takes up 3 slots, so half your gadget set is already being taken up by quick recovery itself.
Quick Curve itself has been so far very interesting. I've been seeing a lot of wild builds from the Quick Curve set.
So let's get started here. So in terms of the level 4 meta, let's just preface this. We want to find the best bang for a buck when it comes to boost, speed, handling. Metal, is there any card that you would specifically state that you can like pick out right now you think has the worst boost, the worst handling, and the worst speed? Specifically boost, speed, handling in that order.
Boost, speed, and handling. Ooh, you gave me a big order right now. Let's see here. From based on numbers itself, worst boost goes to Speedster Lightning, Buster M. Handling wise, that looks like handling goes down to Royal Chariot for the worst handling, ironically. And then you said, and speed, that will have to go down to, ironically, Wild GT. And Wild GT, Arsene Wing, and then the Banana Cruiser.
Yeah, it's actually insane to see that how vastly different these stats are. So one thing I would like to showcase really right now is when we're considering the boost stat, the best boost stat we have currently is actually from Retro Future, and Retro Future actually has a sort of middling tier speed stat, so it's not bad, but it has a really low handling stat in compensation for the really high boost, actually the unnaturally high boost almost for this tier. Unlike II's card, which is the Banana Cruiser, which tentatively from what I've been able to calculate has the best boost while having a middling handling stat to low middle handling stat.
If anything, right, just I think comparing it to II's Banana Cruiser to Retro Fuser, they have the highest boost, of course, right? Same power, same acceleration. They just dump more of the speed stat to get the better handling out of these two vehicles.
It's very interesting to see, honestly. In terms of level 4, so I want to just cross out a few of these cars right now as potential like contenders for being better than some of the other ones. I would like to say, based on some TT related results, things such as like the Royal Chariot might not be the worst vehicle. Although it doesn't have the best handling stat, it does have a really high boost stat in the tier at 27, which is the second highest among the vehicles, with 30 being the highest. And then it has the highest speed stat. Even though the handling's a little bit worse, I think the higher boost and speed matters way more than the handling here based on the weights Shy Guy has provided us.
You were right on that one, but also you gotta remember whenever you're doing, I'm bringing up world matches right here. In world matches, you gotta make sure if you're gonna do level 4, you're running tech drift too, so you gotta make sure you're able to snake and make sure you keep your lines relatively safe while you're slipping around like a banana on the road.
Oh, absolutely. So it could, unfortunately because of that, it could be Royal Chariot may get into more consideration here than I'm initially thinking. I would like to bring up one vehicle, and I would actually like to say that it's kind of funny because the Retro Future having 54 speed, 33 handling, and 30 boost is very interesting to me because it's a little bit more boost, but it's significantly less speed even with the same handling, and it dumps more stats in the power than Royal Chariot does, so it's dumping more stats into a very weak stat overall.
Which, in one case, one may say that, yes, Retro Future might be the case of, like, why would you run this vehicle with level 4? It's kind of redundant in a sense. But I also want to bring up the argument of, yes, it'd be redundant to run Retro Future, but you have to run into that one frame, or not one frame, those precious seconds of vulnerability you have while you're trying to charge up your level 4. So the extra power might become useful right there.
I can fully agree with that. The cards that I would state that are potentially like contenders for not being in this, I think Arsene Wing's stats, although it's got less speed, I actually think the handling to keep your snake lines up, especially because this card was made with Joker in mind, I actually think the handling, the boost, and the speed, it does dump less points in the power than something like Buster M does. And I think that could put Buster M into contention because it's just got so much power put into it. And the handling is, even though the handling is the second highest overall, it's something to keep in mind, but I think Buster M is not going to be the worst vehicle in this class, even with the lowest boost stat it does have. But we'll have to wait and see when we get through this.
Of course. It also depends too, because if we want to bring in the characters running their base vehicles, then this list becomes a muck of a mess right here, which we're not going to be doing this time around.
Yeah, it's going to be very insane. So let's just get started on this. So worst vehicle in the level 4 meta in this setup, I think if we're going to be going over the worst vehicle to use level 4 in, it's going to be it's ironically going to have to go to Buster M or Speedster Lightning because of their super low boost stats. Because you want to charge your boost as fast as possible, even with Tech Drift covering for that a little bit. The super low boost stat, even with like the high speed, I think that's going to make it a very big problem. I think also other vehicles that are in contention, again, back to Royal Chariot and Mirage Blade, even though their boost stat is definitely higher than Buster M and Speedster Lightning, their handling stat being lower by a significant amount of points as well could very well bring them into a big contention for being a very horrible vehicle to use level 4 with. Technically, all the speed vehicles are horrible level 4 vehicles to use them with, but there may be some people
using them.
There's some people that might be psychotic enough to go for it. We never know.
Hey. I'm a contention for horrible ideas. And I was literally a pioneer for the power vehicles when the game first came, when the version 1 came out. Alright? So, I'm just saying is, all you maniacs out there, I want to see something crazy later in the future. But, I have to call it out right now, right? You want my honest call, Joker, for worst vehicle so far for level 4 meta? Mind you, we could discuss this still more, right? I have yet to see someone ever run a proper Wild GT as level 4.
You know, I can fully see that. The one thing that I find kind of interesting about it is it's got the second lowest boost stat and the lowest speed stat in the tier. It does have the highest handling by quite a large margin. Like, it literally has a full soft cap more of handling. But with Tech Drift, I think the fact that it has more boost than Speedster Lightning and Buster M could make it better. Because speed's important. I think Speedster Lightning will outdo Wild GT in terms of like level 4 usage because of the speed stat being so much higher. But I think Buster M might be in consideration because 6 speed versus having 3 less handling, 3 less boost could be a big problem here for this vehicle.
Also, I like to bring out, I have ran different vehicle types outside the speed vehicle as with level 4 by accident, and hint, nudge, nudge, I did this with power I'll save that story for another time, right? The handling stat can be negotiable at times when you're running it. So, when you're running saying that Royal Cherry can be on the chopping block for burst level 4, can be negated back to, we gotta focus on who has the better speed and who has the better boost stat.
That's fair. And I think with that in mind, I can definitely see Wild GT on the chopping block as the worst level 4 vehicle, or the worst speed vehicle to use level 4 with. I also would like to state another thing. What would be, outside of that, what do you think would be the worst vehicle to use in general, like against level 4 as well? That's also another thing we should talk about, because if we're going to talk about Wild GT being the worst level 4 vehicle, now we bring in the question of what is the worst vehicle in this class to use at against other people that are using level 4, right? And I think that brings into the idea of which vehicle has the most dumped power stat while having the lowest speed stat.
That would be, unironically, Wild GT, which you would use Wild GT more for a bagging setup.
Yeah, and the fact that it has not only the lowest speed in the tier, while also having too much power in the tier, I actually think in general, to use Wild GT with level 4, and to just try to use it against level 4 as a base vehicle, I actually think Wild GT is probably the worst vehicle to have in the level 4 meta as a speed tier vehicle, specifically just because you're dumping almost 50 points of power into a vehicle, and not being able to utilize that power, especially against a lot of these level 4 users you're going to be seeing, a lot of really good players. So Wild GT, I think, will have to take the crown as the worst vehicle in the level 4 meta, and to use with level 4 by far. Do you have potentially any objections to this?
I have no objections because I'm looking at the power stat or anything, right? Because the only other vehicles that share the same power stat as Wild GT is Buster M and then Super Shining. They have the highest power out of this entire class. Besides from that, Super Shining has a bit more speed, but has the exact same stats almost all around. And Buster M has more speed, but comparatively has better less handling and less boost to compensate for it. If anything, right, from level 4, yeah, I still have to agree with the Wild GT, it has to be the worst vehicle.
I can definitely agree with you on that. I think Wild GT in the level 4 meta, and just being able to even try to attempt to use the level 4 gadget set, I think just by far GT is just not negotiable. You just can't use this vehicle. It's just too much power. You're never going to use this power. It's too much dumped stats.
And the problem is also, right, but it's also the fact I'm looking at the top speed as well, because imagine you're trying to take a drift at all. You're trying to snake, right? Cool, I could snake with Speedster Lightning, Super Shining, and Buster M. Their speed stats are higher, so naturally, of course, when you slow down to make a drift, yeah, these other vehicles can just easily catch up doing the same thing, if not better.
Yeah, and that's not to mention what characters you're going to be using in a speed vehicle. I know there's a fair amount of handling characters, a fair amount of acceleration characters. You can kind of use just about any character in the speed vehicle if you're trying to have be more casual and have more fun, even if you're trying to take this at high level, there's a lot of characters that can go in these vehicles. I think Wild GT just has too many bad stats that are allocated that it makes it really hard. The one good thing it has going for it is it just doesn't have a lot of acceleration to dump. But I think because it's a speed car and it has the lowest acceleration as well, while having too much power, I actually think that just solidifies how bad it truly is in the meta itself. Because you get beamed by one item because you're not invincible, you're gone, you're done. So I think without a shadow of a doubt, I think we've come to agreement. I think Wild GT, to use with the level 4 gadget set, and to use inside the meta, no matter what character you pick, I actually think it is probably the worst vehicle by far.
Thank you for respecting my choices on this one right here.
I mean, honestly, I can agree with you fully on this. Like, it's very hard to argue that Wild GT is anything better than bottom 2, 3 used in and with the level 4 meta. Like,
okay,
in the meta set.
Alright, well, time to jump topics right here. We get to talk about the bagging set. Ooh boy, my evil hands are rubbing something fierce right now.
So, you know a lot more about bagging than I do. You know I'm avid against bagging. I am probably one of the biggest haters of it, because I don't like it. I like using really good lines. I TT a lot, so I want to use as many optimal lines as I can and stay front running the most I can. So I'm not very knowledgeable in bagging. We have watched players like Squanto play, really good players like him, that know how to bag very proficiently. So,
of course,
what stats with bagging? How would you weight the stats? So, in terms of level 4, with boost, speed, handling being the primary best 3 in that order, what would you say are the best 3 stats with a bagging build?
Okay, with a bagging build, I have to keep it with a $150 with you, Chief, right? Power is your main stat. Second to that would be your speed. Last stat to focus in is acceleration, actually.
So the idea is basically try not to get bumped by some of the people in back, and if you take a hit, you want to have more power to be able to catch back up to speed in a sense, but you also want to have enough speed and acceleration to not fall behind too much. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, you're correct, because the idea of running a bagging set is like, ideally, you want to stay to the farther back of the pack, or literally in the middle of the pack, to at least farm up items or rings as much as possible while avoiding getting hit. And then in the process of it, you have to basically save your items, and then use them sparingly with the item swap, so you can get the better economy for each item, and to hold out certain items so other players can't use them. Like, for example, I believe I remember this correctly from a certain stat sheet, that there can only be 3 drills active at a time. So if you got one drill via lap 1 or 2, and you just keep swapping your items around and keep them away from other players, you already got yourself a guaranteed very good, strong shortcut item, at least for the last lap going in.
So let's start looking at potentially the worst bagging speed vehicles. So in terms of power being the lowest, we have Royal Chariot. However, Royal Chariot does have the highest acceleration and speed stat among the category while having the worst power stat. It could still be in contention because it's so low on the power side, but I would like to bring in a different vehicle, which is, ironically, I would say Super Shining is probably one of the worst speed vehicles in the game for bagging with, mainly because of its super low acceleration and being on the lowest speed tier. But then you also have to bring into consideration also Wild GT coming back at it again with being the lowest speed and acceleration, even though it has the highest power. So I think Wild GT, Super Shiny are both on the chopping block.
Unironically, yes, because like even though I would say Buster M is like a really good, I've used it front running, I used it mid packing, and I used it bagging because I've been forced to bag with Buster M multiple times in the past, right? And I can say this with a fact, right? It is absolutely horrendous when you're trying to bag with a speed vehicle that you're not A, comfortable with, and B, it does not, you don't mess with the stats as perfectly as Buster M does. So with Wild GT having by far worse stats compared to Buster M, you could feel in case you get gapped by just one item, like a stray glove or Monster Truck decides to squish you because everyone decides to have Monster Truck right there in the back of the pack right there.
I can fully agree with that. In the sake of trying to avoid putting the same vehicle in two different stats, I would like to bring contention to Super Shining for one reason, is with being a bagging set, and from what I assume you want to do, is you still want to take the optimal lines in the back because you're not going to get hit often. So having a worse handling stat, I actually think will matter more than having a slightly worse speed stat. Because Super Shining actually misses a soft cap by literally 1 point, I actually think Super Shining being at 39 handling would actually make it worse than Wild GT as a bagging vehicle, even with having 3 more speed, 'Cause I feel like that 3 speed isn't going to matter as much as having that little bit less handling. Because imagine this, you're going to bring a handling character or you're going to bring a speed character or whatever, and imagine you're off on that handling stat literally by 1 point. That's because of Super Shining. Whereas,
Yeah, I understand you.
because speed basically tapers off at a certain point, it doesn't matter how high the speed stat really is with these vehicles for bagging. It matters more about having better handling, better power, better acceleration, and because Super Shining has worse handling while having even a slightly better speed stat, I actually think Super Shining would be worse for bagging. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not saying your thought process is wrong on that, right? But I have 3 vehicles I want to go with that's saying that they're bad at bagging because their stats can be used for almost anything. They're like more of a jack of all trades stats. And Super Shining is one of those vehicles that's like, it feels like a jack of all trades. It's Super Shining, Arsene Wing, and the last one, which is going to be wild statement even for me right now because I feel like there's going to be pitchforks in the comments for this one. I'm going to say it. It's got to be Dark Reaper.
I can just hear the Shadow mains getting tilted. You're really setting off alarms.
I know I'm setting off alarms, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, mind you, right, I did say that, yeah, power, speed, and acceleration is a stats you want to try and see if you focus on for bagging, right? But I've also seen the fact that, okay, most people who also run bagging sets, right, tend to avoid getting hits because they, of course, like you said, they run TT and they want to run the most optimal lines, but while also being forced to stay in the bag. The problem is also just like it's a lot of RNG going into your favor for this one as well. And out of all 3 of these vehicles, I have said I'm going to have to go with the Arsene Wings to be one of the worst bagging vehicles I've seen in a while.
I can see that. I think the one thing that is gonna, for me at least, that's changing this is I think more the fact that Arsene Wing just has more acceleration and it's so close to hitting a soft cap that with Super Shining, again, with missing, you're gonna miss acceleration by 5 points and handling by 1. Arsene Wing has the similar thing. But yeah, you do have a point with Arsene Wing because of the fact that its power is lower and its speed's lower. It's probably going to struggle a lot with getting hit and trying to bag while still maintaining with the pack at least somewhat sufficiently.
Yeah, because I've also got to think about it. You remember, you get hit, the acceleration has to kick in to help you get back in the race faster. Yeah, that's going to be great and everything, right? But then that's why I look at Dark Reapers. I was like, okay, they have 60 speed stat. That 18's great for it if you get hit, compared to Arsene Wing's 45 and Super Shining's 48. You get less. You get hit with Dark Reaper, you're stunned for a bit longer. So bringing it back to the original, the first 2 other picks I have, right? The acceleration is going to be really great, but you also need to have the better top speed to keep up with everybody else.
Okay. I think for me at least, I think Super Shining might still be the one just because of the caps being a little goofy. But I can definitely see a good argument for Reaper and Arsene Wing. I think looking at the stats more, I think Dark Reaper would absolutely beat out Arsene Wing as a bagging car. We do see Dark Reaper as more of a front-running vehicle paired with acceleration characters like Tails, 9. And I think I've seen that a lot.
I've seen them also being picked up more as what you call it, a air trick gear set with the handling characters as well.
Yeah, that is something I haven't seen much of, so the fact that you've seen it is already a hard argument for me to overcome. I think with Arsene Wing, you don't see a lot of Arsene Wing at all. Like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, base vehicle Arsene Wing ever since, like, the Joker Festival. And I think that might be for a good reason. So I think out of all the bagging vehicles, because of, and based on your criteria of what makes a bagging vehicle good versus bad, I'd probably say Arsene Wing is probably in contention to be the worst bagging vehicle. I still have a feeling in the back of my head that Super Shining is up there as well because of the fact of its slightly higher speed stat. I think the fact that it has a significantly worse acceleration, because the lower the stats are, the more important they are going to be for trying to have more of it. So that's why I feel like Arsene Wing having more acceleration actually matters more than Super Shining having more speed, because again, the lower your stats are, the more the caps matter, whereas the higher your stats are, the more they taper out.
I mean, like, I can see the argument right there. I'm also, like, I know I said I wasn't going to bring this up and everything, right? I apologize right there, because, like, I'm also thinking of it as, like, oh, what if you bring the characters based on that? I feel like also Super Shining was also fixed up because you were running Supersonic, because, of course, you want to run the character with your base vehicle, and so Supersonic was basically game-breaking, giving plus 20 to every stat. It says Super Shining, so in this case, I'll have to agree with you for this one, for Super Shining being the worst for bagging.
Objection!
For the counter argument on that, specifically, you can't use Supersonic online, and you're going to be bagging online anyways. If you're bagging in Grand Prix, you're kind of griefing, especially as a speedrunner. So,
of course.
I would say, regardless, I think Super Shining would have to take the cake, because Super Shining's missing out on more important stats for bagging, especially if you're getting hit constantly by people throwing back gloves and things of that nature and you're trying to avoid it. I think that's going to matter more because of it. And I think Arsene Wing would actually win in a bagging contest, especially with the higher boost. The higher boost lets you get off more drift boost, and since you're trying to take optimal lines, you want to get as many optimal level 3s as you can. And Arsene Wing will allow you to get those level 3s higher. So I think Super Shining, in my opinion, is the worst. I do see the argument for Arsene Wing being the worst bagging vehicle, but I would say Super Shining just barely edges out Arsene as the worst bagging vehicle in the game, based on the stats alone.
Also, I do want to preface this. The reason I brought up Supersonic for this is because when I was taking practice to learn bagging, I went to Grand Prix and use characters with their base vehicle setup. So there's my whole experience with that.
And that's fair enough. The only problem is because you're bringing Supersonic up and that character is completely banned from all online play, I don't think it's a valid argument, unfortunately. And that it just sucks to say that too, because Supersonic is cool. I wish you could use him online, but you can't because he's just broken. He just gives you a flat 100 stats across the board. It's not fair to use online. So I think because of that, I would argue Super Shining has to be the worst vehicle because of its stats for bagging. I think it's just less acceleration, less boost, so it's going to be harder to take the lines you need, and you're going to get hit harder for longer than Arsene Wing. What do you think on that? Do you think you can see that?
I can see it. I can see it right now, especially with my argument being null and void right there. Yeah, I can definitely see it.
It's more of a shame that your argument does get null and void, because I feel like it's a good argument. It's just a shame that Supersonic is banned from online play, right? And that just is what sucks.
Like I said, I'd like to test builds on the bots first, on the highest difficulty, to get experience of how the build would work online, because especially when you do level 10 runs.
I feel that. I get that. Another big thing with Supersonic is you're always invincible, so you don't really, unfortunately, because you're using Supersonic and Super Shining, you're going to feel even better because you can never get damaged. You can only fall off. Unfortunately.
So craziest thing right here, right? I have a mod downloaded, right? Whenever I want to do something like this, I have a mod where it turns off Supersonic's invincibility.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know this was a thing.
It's a custom mod I had commissioned.
That is very cool. All right, to not get off topic, let's talk about the worst speed vehicle in the quick recovery meta. So,
oh my god, this is gonna be
great. So let's just preface this. So what all had changed with quick recovery metal? Like, let's just hear it from the patch notes and from your experience, because I could go in for an hour on how good quick recovery currently is. I would like you to take the stand here first and explain how you feel about quick recovery currently and what got changed.
Okay, so before the update happened, quick recovery was a gadget set that took 3 slots, and if you got hit, your stun time was reduced by half. Mind you, it was great. You could get hit and immediately get back into the race if you had the right gadgets to support it, like the ring trail gadget setup, right, with the slipstream. That's what it's called, the slipstream ring build. If you run that with quick recovery, right, it was a good combo back in the version 0.1. Now version 0.2, it is absolutely busted. I can get flattened immediately in first place by a weight and catch up as soon as the first person from second place passes me, because that's how strong it is now. They went from a solid 50% stun time to a 75%. And I'm going to bring up acceleration kit right now. It's now old school version 1.0 quick recovery, because before it was 25% stun time reduced.
It is honestly just like, quick recovery has had one of the biggest glow ups in the game, unironically, and I actually think quick recovery has a very, very high potential especially right now. Because if a level 4, if someone that's really good at level 4 gets hit even once, and you can get hit like 3 or 4 times and still be in the race with them because of slip quick recovery sets. The biggest issue with quick recovery is the fact that you can't get a lot of ring generation because it's 3 slots. I think you can still find the lines. You're going to have to take a little bit less optimal lines and take more wide angle lines to get rings and things of that nature. But you're able to just keep getting hit after hit after hit. Like, I had a few races the other day versus some of the better players in the game, and I was able to get hit like 5, 6, 7, 8 times in one lap, and I was still able to get like top 3. I was able to beat them a couple times. But it just goes to show, like, quick recovery really has had one of the biggest glow ups, and it's really, really strong. I don't know how good it currently is. It's still too early to tell how strong it really is. It just feels so nice, especially with how strong the items are.
Oh, I can tell you right now, exactly. It's with quick recovery right now. I've been playing the Legends mode right now. That's been out. I got to gold today, but it was all in bronze and majority of silver. I saw quick recovery with interesting ring builds, item bagging sets. I even saw a guy running level 4 for some odd reason. It was on extreme gear course. It was weird, but still, the amount of people running quick recovery, especially going up to gold right now, is great because I'm able to take at least a massive amount of abuse from King Boo, weights. Slime is always going to be the bane of my existence because I struggle with taking it off me, right? But you can get away with a lot of things, especially with not doing optimal lines. Just save yourself for level 1, lap 2, get your rings up, and then just right there, you have yourself for the races the rest of the time.
So let's talk about the quick recovery criteria. So compared to how Shy Guy put it for the level 4 meta, compared to how you put it with the bagging meta, or the bagging build, I should say level 4 build, bagging build. So with the quick recovery build, funny enough, you actually want to have the highest power and acceleration you can possibly get. Speed and boost, you want to have, I would probably say you'd go power, acceleration are the two most important because the less you're stunned for and the quicker you can get back up to speed, the better, especially with quick recovery because you don't get hit for that long. So being able to get back right up to 200, or like if you're already in a boost state or you're able to pop a whisk, getting right back up to like that 200 speed cap, like yeah, you're going to lose all your rings or you're going to lose 50 rings if you get hit, but it's still like just being able to get back up to like 200 if you're on a dash panel and you're able to get that level 2 charge immediately, or using a wisp, or just getting right back up to like 185 or 186, somewhere in that range for most vehicles for the speed tier. It's very, very important. So I would like to bring in contention immediately because of this actually. Let's start looking at vehicles that have the lowest acceleration and the lowest power. And funny enough, there's not a lot of vehicles in this class that actually have a low power and low acceleration. I think the closest you're going to get is Royal Chariot having the lowest power. But I think from that point forward, it's now going to be hard to figure it out. So what do you see? Anything that specifically sticks out? Because I can't really see anything just yet. I might be overlooking something.
Well, the thing is, like with every vehicle so far, they have their stats well enough balanced. Well, of course, like Royal Chariot's the obvious one, so like it has the lowest power. But look at that speed and acceleration; it balances out the vehicle so bloody well. Of course, Dark Reaper being like another contender right here, but its stats are so balanced out right now. You have to think about it as like, oh wow, like if I go for low power, I gotta find something. The vehicle makes up for acceleration and speed. As such, right? I can look at Buster M. It has, and Wild GT, 48 power, but milling 15 acceleration, which absolutely is terrible. So you gotta look at something else right here, right? You gotta look at their top speed and possibly their boost to make up for it.
With that in mind, it's so tough actually because there's not really a lot of vehicles that have low acceleration or like middling acceleration while having a middling to low power and then low speed. It's very hard to pinpoint one of these vehicles out. So it's gonna be tough, but I think it's kind of funny. Speedster Lightning having a medium high power, but having the lowest acceleration and the lowest boost, I actually think brings it in contention, funny enough. Because think of it like this, with quick recovery, you're going to recover quickly, and getting an immediate drift boost off after getting hit actually brings you back up to speed so quickly, and that acceleration stat will come into play very heavily. And remember, like I said with the bagging set, the lower a stat is, like if one of your stats is just so low, especially when you're not running level 4, like power, if power is just so low it's unused, it doesn't matter, or like power is negligible because of how invincibility works, then it's not going to be weighted as heavily. But because we're running quick recovery, having good power and good acceleration matters a lot, while still maintaining a really good speed stat. It has the highest speed stat in the category, which is like a very important thing, but having the lowest acceleration while having the lowest boost stat, I actually think makes it so much worse. But then we have to bring in Buster M as well. Buster M has worse speed, the lowest handle, or the lowest acceleration, the lowest boost, but it does have the highest power. But I would still think that because it has less speed, less acceleration, and less boost, even with the higher power, because those stats are low, because acceleration and boost are the lowest stats in the category for speed vehicles, that matters so much, especially with quick recovery. I think Speedster Lightning and Buster M are immediately in contention because of their low acceleration and their low boost stat among the class.
Ooh, man. I wanted to bring up Stealth Chaser also as a contender right here, but I feel like Stealth Chaser is a weird middle ground between both Speedster Lightning and Buster M.
I wouldn't even say it's a weird middle ground. I think it literally is just like the middling pack of vehicle. It has either like, it has medium high speed, medium acceleration, it has low middle handling stat, it has medium high power stat, and then it has a medium low boost. It's kind of like, it's like a balanced mix, whereas Buster M has the lowest acceleration and the lowest boost in the class. Yes, it has more handling, yes, it has more power, but with quick recovery, you need to have boost to get your drifts off, and you need to have acceleration to get back up to speed, because even quick recovery can only do so much. Without a good acceleration stat, or at least a manageable acceleration stat, you're gonna be in for a really bad time, let's put it that way.
You are correct on that, right? I also want to say that it also depends, right? Because like you can either A, rely on getting a level 1 boost off, or B, if you're running the ring gain speed a gadget, right? You just get 1 or 2 rings and you're immediately back up to using a level 1 instead of actually charging a level 1. So I'm going to have to say it has to go to Speedster Lightning, which I kind of hate to say right now.
I can definitely see that.
Because the top speed right there, it makes up a whole lot of, like, it makes up a lot of things right there for the vehicle combo, but being stunned longer because the lower power stat makes up a lot of problems right there.
Yeah, not only to mention, it does also have the lowest boost stat and the lowest acceleration. I think Speedster Lightning, because it's boost and acceleration, and I just want to preface it one more time, having the lowest stats of a class and they're in your lowest stat pools, while they're really important for a certain build, it makes it very hard to contend even with having the highest speed stat and one of the highest handling stats in the class. It still just makes it so hard to contend with because you need to be able to recover quickly with quick recovery, ironic, but you need to be able to have a good acceleration stat and a good power stat while having enough boost to get your drift boost off immediately. And Speedster Lightning just doesn't have the stats for it. Again, we could bring Wild GT back into this conversation because it has 9 less speed and it has the lowest acceleration while barely having a higher boost, but we're trying to avoid putting Wild GT in every category because in general, if we did that, Wild GT would literally just be the worst vehicle in the class for every build just about. But we want to try
to be fair.
We do want to try to avoid this as much as possible because we want to have at least a fair argument for each of the cars. We want to make sure each vehicle has its like spotlight in the losers bracket. And unfortunately, Wild GT is just the worst overall, in my opinion. I know we're going a little ahead of ourselves, but
yeah, we could just skip ahead right now.
But let's just put it this way: I think Speedster Lightning probably one of the worst vehicles for quick recovery because it's just got such a low acceleration. It's got less power than Buster M and Wild GT while having the lowest boost stat, so it makes it harder to get your drift boosts off. I think Speedster Lightning with quick recovery specifically, with the quick recovery build, I think is the worst speed vehicle for quick recovery. Even though it's good for like use in some other sets, I just don't think it's good enough here.
Well, Sonic, it looks like both your vehicles right here got put on the chopping block. I don't know how to feel about the blue blur right now.
Dude, the blue blur should have just kept running. But anyways, off topic. So, general war speed vehicle. If we are going to consider the general war speed vehicle, all the speed vehicles in this class, we have to contend one thing. What makes Wild GT, Super Shining, and Speedster Lightning, like, out of the 3, what makes them the worst? I think Wild GT is by far, like, above and beyond just so much worse than a lot of these other cars. All 3 of them have the worst acceleration stat, yes, but Wild GT and Super Shining have the highest power, but that doesn't really matter too much. Like Wild GT has the highest handling, but that doesn't matter too much because the handling stat is so close. I know we went into handling being important, but we were trying to avoid putting Wild GT in multiple categories.
Plots.
So,
yeah.
But I think the fact that handling is just so close for all 3 of these vehicles, I think just makes it so much harder to argue as being so much better. It's hard to argue Wild GT being better than Super Shining or Speedster Lightning as like the general worst vehicle. Like, yeah, you could probably bring in, like, maybe some people in the comments might argue, well, what about Mirage Blade having the lowest handling stat? The thing is, a lot of these speed vehicles, and I want to preface this real quick and speak on this, a lot of these speed vehicles do get used by handling characters a lot of the time, and acceleration characters a fair bit of the time, and they usually have reasonable handling stats, and there is tech in the game to be able to help you handle turns. You can you have drift charge kit, you have acceleration tapping, you have letting go of acceleration, you have brake tapping. Like, there's so many ways to handle turns if you understand how to use the tech and utilize it properly that I think the handling stat, especially in this class, I don't think it's nearly as important. I mean, heck, to bring TT into this, Royal Chariot is one of the main used TT vehicles for
and I was
supersonic
waiting
speed.
for you to bring that up. Dear God, I was waiting for you to bring up your TT experience right now for this category because, dear Lord, Royal Chariot has dominated most of the CrossWorlds tracks.
It also has dominated Radical Highway for a very long time in supersonic speed.
Are you serious? It
Yes.
It conquered Radical? I thought
Yeah.
Dark Reaper mains, where you at?
No, Dark Reaper mains just haven't been able to do it because Royal Chariot's able to get up to speed faster at the start because of the extra acceleration, and it has a higher boost stat, so your drifts come out faster. So Royal Chariot cannot be in contention, and by virtue, it sucks to say this, but Mirage Blade can't be in contention either, even though it has slightly worse speed. It just can't be a worse vehicle than Wild GT when Wild GT literally has almost literally 3 of the worst stats in the class, while only have, even if it has the best handling and power, it literally just has, it has the worst boost, the worst acceleration, and the worst speed by far, basically, like stat for stat fighting, that I think Wild GT legitimately is, without a doubt,
worst.
it has to be the worst vehicle, and I think this has to be the worst speed vehicle in general. If you're just using Wild GT on its own, and all 3 of its base parts, I think Wild GT is just above and beyond the worst vehicle. If we could, I would put Wild GT in every category, because it literally just, it sucks for bagging. To even try to use level 4, like, yeah, you're not going to use level 4 speed vehicles, but to even try to use it with level 4, and to try to use it against level 4 is just impossible. That power stat is just, it's too high and you can't utilize it. Its handling's nice, but again, there's tech to make handling, like, manageable. And then,
of course,
for quick recovery, having the highest power but the lowest acceleration while having the lowest speed and the lowest boost nearly, it's just not viable for that reason. I think that's what makes it worse.
You know what's crazy? I think people run, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think people only run Wild GT just for the aesthetic value of a hot rod vehicle. That's it. If it's stats, they have to do so much work to min-max it perfectly.
To min-max Wild GT, it's crazy to think about this, but like one of the best piece combinations, and this is off topic, but to end the video, one of the best piece combinations with Wild GT, ironically enough, is you want to probably do like hot rod front, and then do like 2-piece Royal Chariot potentially. Something like that, because the power stat that it has and the handling stat it has will offset the Royal Chariot's low handling and lower power, while still getting more boost speed, acceleration out of the scenario. I feel like if you want to make Wild GT viable in terms of like utilizing it with good stats, you have to do 1 part GT with like 2 parts Chariot, or 1 part GT with 2 parts Mirage Blade, or 1 part GT with like 2 parts Dark Reaper, things of that nature, to make it viable.
I see Nemo to interject on this right here, because this video is not about talking about mixing car parts together.
Exactly.
The most common Wild GT combo I've seen is Wild GT with Retro Future. That's it.
It just looks nice. Let's just be real. It really just looks cool. But
yeah.
I think if we're gonna talk about stats, just to preface this, if we want to make Wild GT viable, I know it's not part of the conversation right now, but if you were to try to make Wild GT viable, I would argue 1 part GT, 2 parts Chariot is probably one of the best sets. If not, 1 part GT, 2 parts Mirage Blade will make it viable. That's my take on it. I know some of you guys in the comments are probably going to argue and be like, well, GT actually has viability. If you guys think that's true, please go right ahead and comment down below. Honestly, I would like to see what your takes on this are, because we're bringing in 3 different build ideas that are probably going to be the main 3 builds you're going to see a lot of the time, and we tried to avoid using Wild GT as the worst vehicle overall. We wanted to make sure that every vehicle had an argument to be maybe the worst bagging, worst quick recovery, worst speed, but unfortunately Wild GT is just, I feel like, and I think me and Metal both agree on this, I think Wild GT by itself as a base vehicle is just unfortunately the worst speed vehicle in the game by far, and it would have been put in every category if we didn't have the stipulation of we want to try to avoid doing that.
I feel like with that stipulation, I feel like by that point, after we do all 3 categories for future videos, of course, right? The general one can be just a free ball for anybody, any vehicle.
It will be a little bit of, let's say, Wild GT syndrome, because Wild GT, unfortunately, has brought upon
the plague.
It really has brought the black plague of the speed tier, unfortunately, and it might seep into every other video, unfortunately. Anyways, that's it for today's video, guys. Hopefully, you guys agree. If you do not agree, please comment down below why you guys don't agree. Honestly, this is a very fun video series that we're going to be doing. It's going to be very interesting. It's a lot of opinions, a lot of stats being involved, because there's 3 different builds here, so the weights are going to be different between each tier. So it's going to be very hard to just pick one specific car. We're trying to avoid picking only one vehicle, but unfortunately GT by far is just the worst vehicle, sadly, for the speed tier in our opinion. Hey guys, the Stella Joker in post here. So if you were listening to the video right at the end, you did hear it correct. We will be doing a video series on this, one for each vehicle class. So we will be going over the acceleration class next, and from there we'll be going over the handling class, the power class, and finally we'll be ending off with the extreme gears. We wanted to do speed vehicles first because me and Metal have both used speed vehicles for a fair amount of time. I think Metal has used them significantly more than I have, but I've used them a fair bit. They're very fun. I think they're some of the coolest looking vehicles in the game. Unfortunately, they're just not the best, especially in the current meta game of Tech Drift level 4 on an extreme gear. and I want to just go over what the criteria was supposed to be. So we messed up in this video big time, and the main criteria was, how does the vehicle function within the level 4 metagame? It was not meant to be, how would this vehicle function when trying to utilize level 4? That was an accident on my end towards Metal. I didn't fully explain how the structure was going to be for the level 4 criteria. For the worst bagging and the worst quick recovery, it basically was, what vehicle do we think is the worst speed vehicle to use when trying to bag, and what speed vehicle is the worst when trying to use quick recovery, because quick recovery just got a really nice buff. It is extremely strong right now. I wouldn't say it's comparable to level 4 tech drift. It's definitely viable though. I have had quite a few matches recently, and I know I stated this in the video, but if you skip just to the end to hear Postostello talking, in the video I explained that I have versed a few pretty good players on extreme gear level 4 tech drift, and I was able to beat them because of a power vehicle quick recovery build that I've been running, and it utilizes slipstream as well. It is very strong in my opinion, and it's a build that I really enjoy. Granted, it's not the best build, but I love it a lot. Anyways, I'm on topic. I'll say the worst vehicle to use in the level 4 metagame, which is Wild GT, having the lowest speed, the lowest acceleration, one of the lowest drift stats in the class, and having 50 power almost. It's just not good. You can't use this vehicle at all, and it's just completely horrendous to try to even utilize in the level 4 metagame. And then for the worst bagging and quick recovery vehicle, we wanted to separate Wild GT from these two, because if we didn't, Wild GT has the lowest speed and very low acceleration, so it can't really bag that well. And then for quick recovery, even though it has the highest power, it's literally got the lowest acceleration and speed. So even with quick recovery, you're just going to be eating it constantly. Like, there's literally no way that Wild GT is going to be viable at all. It is a very cool vehicle. I personally enjoy it a lot. It just really sucks that Wild GT is just the way it is. Anyways, outside of that, I'd like to thank you all for at least watching the video, and I definitely stated it in the video, but if you have any disagreements with the tier list here, please comment down below why you disagree with the tier list. I would be more than happy to discuss this in the comment section. This video was very fun to produce with Metal. It was very enjoyable. We had a lot of great discussion, and overall I cannot wait to get on to the next video and make the acceleration video. I'm very excited for that one because acceleration unfortunately is the weakest class in the game. Hey, funny enough, in this background footage, I'm just going to point this out, there's the Wild GT Retro Future we were talking about from the video, which is really funny. That Jet's using it. But anyways, all I can say is, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any discussions you want to have about these vehicles, please comment down below. Anyways, Postostello Joker is heading out. You guys have a great one. Thank you for watching the video.